Before the Peter Jackson movies, Lord of the Rings actually had a lot of adaptations that you've probably never heard of. I thought it would be fun to run down a few of them. One of the very first ideas was to turn it into a Beatles project with Stanley Kubrick directing. That never got off the ground. If you're curious, Lennon would have played Gollum. McCarthy, of course, would play Frodo. Harrison would play Gandalf, and in very good casting, Ringo Starr would have been Sam. That one never got off the ground, but what did get made was a animated short film adaptation of The Hobbit. Take a look.
Mines of Dale and kill the fire-spitting dragon Slag. A fascinating story, said the small hobbit.
It's animated only in the loosest sense of the term. The history behind this is the producers had the right to make The Hobbit and were trying to, but the production fell through. But contracts are a funny thing, and the exact wording of the contract was that they had to make a film and have it premiere in a theater. So to keep the rights, they just made a short little film and put it up on one theater once. Funnily enough, that tactic of making a quick, cheapo cash-in to keep the rights has happened before with fantasy things. Check out original pilot for Wheel of Time. We must thank the Smiling Friends for reminding everyone that this exists. This is an adaptation by Rankin Bass. These are the same people who did Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I think what's less remembered, though, is there's actually a sequel to this one where they adapt Return of the King. Speaking of animated adaptations of Lord of the Rings, it would be a crime to not mention Ralph Bakshi. And despite the relative merits of these two adaptations, I want to say something definitively. This poster is so much better than the movies. I love the Lord of the Rings movies, but these posters are absolute garbage. I've always hated them. And when you see how they used to do posters, like, come on. Speaking of the live-action adaptations, there was a Swedish television film.
Linjerna lyste som eld och verkade underligt avlägsna som om de stigit fram. Himlen lyste klar och blå. På andra sidan gläntan fanns en öppning I skogsvägen.
There's also a Finnish miniseries adapting The Hobbit, with some honestly pretty killer jazz for the soundtrack. And this one's interesting. There was a Soviet adaptation of it. So what have we learned here? That I guess before blockbuster culture, life was a little different for mega geek properties like Lord of the Rings. I hope I don't come off like I'm talking down to filmmakers who didn't have the resources of a major studio backing them, because I'm really not. I love some point back in our history that fantasy didn't necessarily need to be a massive mega production. And I hope that one day maybe fantasy can find its indie spirit again, just a little bit.